Call the LAFCO meeting to order on May 22nd. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Jim, you want to start with the introductions?
And Jim DeMartini, county member.
Mike Van Winkle, city member.
And Terry Withrow, county member.
Javier Camarena, Assistant Executive Officer.
Sarah Lytle Penny, Executive Officer.
Alice Mims, LAFCO Council.
Jennifer Goss, Commission Clerk.
Okay. Move on to public comment. Anybody that would like to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? Nope. Okay, we'll go to approval of minutes. Everybody got a chance to see?
Yes.
Yeah, got a chance to read it. Move for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any correspondence?
Yes, you have two pieces of specific correspondence related to the Riverbank item 7B. One is a letter dated today from Churchwell White, and the other is an email also dated today from Annabelle Gammon. And that's all.
Okay. Moving to declaration of conflict of interest or disqualifications. Anybody have conflict of interest?
No.
Nope. Okay. Move on to consent items. Would anybody like this consent item pulled for discussion? Take the motion then.
We have no consent items
I have
today.
no
What
consent.
is this?
We'll move on.
Okay.
Going to the first public hearing, item 7A.
Okay.
There is no consent.
So, okay. Okay, we'll move to public hearing, LAFCO application number 2019-07. Do I have the wrong? I have the wrong. Yeah, this is wrong.
Anybody use mine?
Yeah, can I please?
Sure. Take mine.
Okay, out of boundary service application, Ceres West Mobile Park. The commission will consider a request by the city of Ceres to extend water service outside its city limits and sphere of influence to an existing mobile home park located at 2048 East Grayson Road. City of Ceres as lead agency under the California Environmental Quality Act has determined the proposal as is statutorily exempt pursuant to Public Resources Code 21080.20.
Good evening, Javier Camarena with LAFCO. This evening we have a pretty brief item here on the agenda. It's for an out-of-boundary service application. The proposal is a request by the City of Ceres to provide water service outside its boundaries to a mobile home park. The mobile home park is located southwest and near the East Grayson Road and Central Avenue intersection outside the city's sphere of influence. It's an aerial of the site. You can see the mobile home park here in the yellow boundary. The proposed out-of-boundary service is in response to the State Water Resources Control Board's request for voluntary consolidation of water systems. The consolidation is due to a compliance order to address maximum contaminant levels for arsenic. The mobile home park currently consists of 150 residents with 46 connections. State law and commission policies generally prefer annexation in order to accommodate an extension service. However, a service extension may be allowed when there are health and safety concerns involved. Stanislaus LAFCO Policy 15 allows such extensions when the request is for a health and safety issue, the property is already developed, and that there's no future expansion of service allowed without prior LAFCO approval. City of Ceres has indicated that it is able to provide water service to the site. The water extension is statutorily exempt from SEPA review as it's an extension of less than 1 mile. Staff believes that the proposal to provide water service is consistent with government code and LAFCO policies. Staff's recommendation can be found on page 3 of the Executive Officer's Report, which includes a recommendation to approve the out-of-boundary service extension. That concludes my presentation. Staff is available for questions as well as representatives from the City of Ceres.
Questions for staff before we open this up?
I just had a question on the, excuse me, the water line comes from Ceres, this mobile home park. Whose responsibility is it to pay for that line? The city or the applicant or the mobile home park?
I believe the agreement that they have puts that on the applicant, but the city can speak a little bit more to the agreement itself.
Good evening. Toby Wells, City Manager for the City of Ceres. The agreement, all those responsibilities are the responsibility of the applicant. So the mobile home park is responsible to build all facilities, the connection to the city's infrastructure, as well as the line in Central to connect to their water system and maintain both those permanent improvements as well as anything on site.
I suppose there's a problem with that water line that starts to leak or needs to be repaired. Is that the city's responsibility?
No, it is still their responsibility. Our responsibility stops at the connection. So there'll be a meter at the location, and that's where our responsibility stops. The rest of that is on their responsibility, and there's a deed restriction as well as a bond being put in place to ensure that that maintenance is covered.
This is the Water Resources Board that's behind this. They put any undue pressure on the city?
What's your definition of undue?
Just like do it or else?
That was essentially it, yes. October 1st of 2018, there was a scheduled public hearing for forced consolidation. So the city agreed prior to that meeting to provide the service, or the agreement was going to be forced upon us. So the city's options were, as I've said before, and this is no offense to the applicant, but our options were bad or worse, and we chose the bad option and able to negotiate the best deal possible because we were very concerned of what the state would force on us versus what we were able to negotiate directly with the applicant.
There's a lot of bad state agencies like Cal OSHA, DMV, Cal EPA, but I think the Water Resources Board is the worst of the worst. Do you have any idea why the mobile home park didn't put in their own wellhead treatment?
So they had an alternatives analysis prepared. The engineer who prepared that study is here this evening. He could speak in more detail to the options that were considered, but there were a number of considerations. One was treatment of their own on-site well. Unfortunately, the state strongly prefers for a connection to a larger system. They do not have confidence in wellhead treatment for these smaller systems. And so those other options, although they were considered and were determined to be relatively equal in terms of long-term cost and operational costs, the state strongly preferred and strongly directed the connection to the City of Ceres.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought you'd say. So, and of course, you're charging an appropriate cost for that water.
We are charging everything in accordance with our municipal code.
Do you have any guarantee that you're going to get paid? Is there some fund that...
There is a provision in the agreement as well that they have to provide a $15,000 fund balance to establish the account to allow for approximately 6 months of non-payment so that we have the ability to try to remedy the situation before we have to turn water off to their site. So that's part of the agreement as well.
Okay, I didn't know that. Is the county a backstop for them not paying?
Not in this case. That would be that was the arrangement that was put in place for the Monterey Park track. That is not the situation in this case because this county does not have any relationship with that owner other than land use. The difference between this and Monterey Park track, as you may recall, if the Monterey Park track board, the Community Services District, were to become insolvent or not exist, then the county would be the entity that would take that over, hence why the county was the backstop for that particular agreement. So it's not the case in this situation.
Okay, I just wanted that for part of the record. Thank you, Mr. Wells.
Okay. Terry, you have any questions?
No, we have a similar thing going on out in Riverdale. track park, but we've already got the line there. And I just think this is just consistent with what's going on across the state. And to some extent, it makes some sense to consolidate these things and not have all these separate water districts out there everywhere, and especially in these areas where the arsenic levels are so high. So anyway, it's just a fix that we got to do.
Seems like a pretty high cost just for 46 units, though. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Any other questions before I open this up for public comment? No? Okay. So we're going to open this item up for public comment. Anybody that'd like to come and speak for this item? No? Okay. Close public comment. Bring it back to the dais for a motion.
I just had one question before we do this. It's been mentioned that the arsenic levels were high for this water. Is that because the arsenic levels are going up, or the state standards have been changed?
I believe in this case it was the state standard that actually triggered it.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So there probably hasn't been any change in the arsenic in the water level for the last 20 years. Okay, that's what I thought was the case.
Any other questions? Motion?
I will make a motion to approve all staff recommendations.
We have a first and second. Oh, no.
Why don't you second it? I really don't want to.
Okay, I'll second. So now we have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Move on to item B, LAFCO application number 2019-06, Crossroads West, change of organization to the city of Riverbank.
Yes. So this is a request from the city of Riverbank to annex 400 acres to the city. And you'll recall in 2016, the commission approved a sphere of influence expansion and updated municipal service review for the city of Riverbank that expanded the city sphere to reflect the city's long-term plans for growth in the area. Previously, the sphere of influence actually ended on the westerly edge there where Oakdale Road is shown. This proposed annexation would take within the city limits the area that the commission designated as the primary sphere of influence, and that's the term that we use for near-term growth, usually a 0 to 10-year period. Just a little bit close-up view with showing how the parcels are divided in the area. This also shows the relationship of location of City of Modesto, which is just on the slide along Claritina Avenue. The two entities, two cities, share a sphere of influence along Clarabelle Road. This annexation would actually take in half the right-of-way of Clarabelle Road as per the commission's policy when you have two future cities that will be neighbors to each other at one point. They usually split the right-of-way. So this gives you an idea of what's actually located on and near the site. The site right now is zoned agriculture A240 in the county's zoning ordinance. The existing uses up north along Morrill Road, the city actually already has a regional sports park. And then off of Crawford Road, a little bit south of Crawford Road there, on the south side, sorry, is a active dairy. And then on the corner of Oakdale, the northwest corner of Oakdale Road and Clarabelle Road is the Tulip Farm, which hosts different kind of ag tourism events. And then, of course, all the existing Crossroads development that was annexed back in 1997 is what you see immediately to the east of the site. So this is the specific plan land use map for the area that the city has adopted. The city is planning for mixed uses along the south side, which would allow for commercial and potentially residential, and then a mix of low, medium, and high-density residential. Also expansion of the regional sports park up that green spot up on the north. They're also showing a park basin area that would act as an ag buffer on the westerly edge, and then potential sites for schools and a fire station. So the factors for the Commission's review are discussed in detail on pages 1 through 8 of your staff report, but I'm going to quickly go over 4 of them, including impacts to ag, the services in the area, consistency with commission policies, specifically the ag policy, and then comments from affected agencies. So this gives you an idea of the important farmlands in the area. In terms of impact to ag lands, there's approximately 350 acres of important farmlands. That's what the Department of Conservation classifies as the most valuable ag lands. There's 226 acres of prime farmland, and you'll also see there's some unique farmland and farmland of local importance. And then they've got marked there actually some of the existing urbanization, at least the park, and then the activity on the corner there that they've got marked as semi-agricultural. So the city did prepare a plan for ag preservation, and that's in accordance with commission policies. The plan details the impacts to ag lands, how the city considered and balanced this with the potential development in the area. The plan discusses the buffer policy for the westerly edge of the annexation. It also identifies the requirement for one-to-one mitigation, which the city will apply to those important farmlands that are converted to residential use. The city also adopted that language consistent with the LAFCO policy, allowing for either direct acquisition, purchase of credits, or in lieu fees for the one-to-one ag mitigation. So as part of the commission's evaluation of the plan for ag preservation, it needs to make these findings, which are consistent with other parts of LAFCO law as well. These are outlined and described in the staff report, but essentially the commission determines that there's insufficient alternative land available for this development, that it's been directed, if possible, away from prime farmland, that growth is imminent for all or a substantial portion of the area, that the loss of ag lands has been minimized, and that's usually looking at the strategy that they've chosen, the one-to-one ag mitigation, and then that this will result in planned, orderly, and efficient use of land and services. City also prepared a plan for services consistent with LAFCO law and local policy that provides an overview of how services will be provided to the area following annexation, as well as the funding mechanisms for those services. The plan for services includes discussion regarding water, sewer, storm drainage, roadways, fire services, and police services. The plan also identifies that capital costs will be funded through development impact fees, and that operating costs could be funded through a combination of increased tax base and either the formation of a new community facilities district or annexation to an existing community facilities district. In some instances, the plan for services discusses the developer may be required to install some infrastructure up front with reimbursement at a later date based on the city's existing system development fee program. Overall, the city determined that through both its plan for services and the additional documentation it provided with its application, that there is the ability to provide needed services to the area. The city has also identified policies and financing mechanisms for the provision of these future services. So the commission received a letter from Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District, actually written by Best and Krieger, and it's included in your packet. That letter asked that LAFCO delay or deny the application based on a disagreement regarding impact fees, and also some claims regarding general plan consistency and CEQA. The City of Riverbank provided a response, which is also in your packet, which included copies of previous correspondence with the district. It discusses some of the ongoing efforts. It included responses regarding the general plan consistency and CEQA compliance. The city also stated that it will continue to negotiate with the district. We did receive some supplemental correspondence from the city today as well, which details some more information about how a new fire station could be funded under both the current impact fee or an increased fee to accommodate future growth within the sphere. You also, in your packet, there is a comment from a neighbor to the north, and then you received a specific correspondence today, the email from another Riverbank resident. So the city, as lead agency, prepared and certified an environmental impact report for the project. During that process, they adopted findings of fact, mitigation measures, and a statement of overriding considerations. As a responsible agency, the commission must review that environmental documentation prepared by the city and consider adopting the same findings and statement of overriding considerations. Those documents were also provided to the commission. They've been available in electronic form, as noted on our last agenda, actually. So the commission has three options tonight. The first, as recommended by staff, would be to approve the proposal. The commission can do so with or without modification. Option 2 would be to deny the proposal. And then option 3 would be to, if the commission decides it needs more information, to continue the proposal to a future meeting. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding has been that the city doesn't have to choose the vehicle for how they're going to do the ag mitigation. They could either do in lieu of fee or do it themselves, but they don't have to make that decision until later.
Right, and that would be
That's
consistent with the language that we have.
That's the policy was changed a few months ago.
Right.
They did that. Okay, that should be fair enough. Can somebody check up on that to see that they actually do that?
Yeah, and we talked about that, I think it was our last meeting or the meeting prior, that we were going to try to do an annual report to check in with the cities that we know that have that condition to see what's actually been accomplished.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, go ahead and open this up for public hearing. Anybody that would like to speak now? Want to state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my name is John Anderson, JB Anderson Land Use Planning, 139 South Stockton, Ripon, California, representing the city of Ripon here tonight. I'm glad to finally be able to bring this project before you tonight. In the audience, I'm joined by Sean Scully, City Manager, Robin Barral, Deputy City Attorney, Donna Kinney, who's the Planning and Building Manager. We've got our Finance Director here. We have at least 3 of our council members, Campbell, Uribe, and Barbara Martinez, and one of our planning commissioners as well, Mr. Don Diamond. We're pleased to be able to present this to you tonight. This has been a fairly lengthy process. The application as presented is about a 400-acre annexation in this area. There's 10 registered voters from what we can tell. The project boundaries are as described here and then also as presented by LAFCO staff. The history on it, the city negotiated an advanced funding agreement starting in November of 2014. We were presented with the first plan December of 2015, started work on the EIR in 2017, ultimately released a draft environmental document in June of 2018. The final EIR was released January 2019, and then the Planning Commission considered the entire project February 13, with culmination of City Council action on March 19th. On March 19th, there was a number of actions that the City Council took to adopt and to approve this project and to recommend for the filing of application to LAFCO for formal annexation of the territory described. The project is a fairly comprehensive project. It is all embodied under a specific plan. That specific plan land use diagram is as presented. It is truly a mixed-use project. We've got opportunities for 2 different types of school sites, elementary and middle. We've got a number of different parks that are going to be developed. We're going to have substantial expansion of a regional sports complex. The city enjoys additional opportunity for commercial development at the corner of Oakdale and Clarabelle Road, as well as the ag buffer and continuation of circulation that's suggested in the application itself. The ag resource policy is contained obviously with LAFCO policies as well as the City of Riverbank's adopted sustainable ag strategies, and we will be under obligation to make sure that is fully enforced. Vice Chair DeMartini, this project also has an additional obligation to deal with Swainson hawk foraging habitat, so not only will they be taking care of their ag mitigation obligations, they'll also be taking care of Swainson hawk. Thank you, Cal Fish and Game. Anyway, so that's definitely a part of their obligations and confined to mitigation measures as part of the adopted EIR. Public outreach is always a big deal. We had the scoping meeting on the EIR back in 2017, April. We had the City Council workshop, at least one in February of 2018, and then a joint Planning Commission City Council workshop on September 18th. And then, of course, the hearings where the entire project was presented, both in February of 19 and then March 19th of 2019. And then, of course, all of the materials associated with this project have been available at the city's website, including all the exhaustive addendums that are part of the environmental documents as well as the specific plan itself. So, been well vetted, lots of information available, etc. So we're here tonight to answer any specific questions that your commission has relative to this application, the correspondence that you've received tonight and before this meeting. I know that Sean Scully wants to get up and talk a little bit, but again, we're here, we have the experts here that will be able to answer the questions that you would have at this point. So are there any questions of me before I sit down? And obviously I'll probably come back up and answer any questions that you may have.
I just had one minor question on this. Your map shows a mixed use 1 and a mixed use 2. Is there any real difference between that, or just that they're in different locations?
It really has to do with location and phasing. MU1 or mixed use 1 is under a separate ownership than the mixed use 2. So that's kind of, it has to do with phasing of the project and then also with ownership distribution.
The land uses would not necessarily be.
The land uses are all described in the specific plan itself, and it talks about what percentage of this site could be developed residentially as opposed to commercially. And there's options in both MU1 and MU2 to allow for that to happen. So we're talking about mixed use that could be vertical or it could be horizontal. Horizontal meaning on the same site.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, that was it for now.
Okay.
Good evening, LAFCO Commissioners. My name is Sean Scully. I'm the City Manager with the City of Riverbank, and on behalf of the Riverbank City Council and staff, we want to thank you for considering our application. As you know, and it's been talked about for many years, we've been working on this project for a very long time, and we're very excited that we're here today. We'd like to state that every step of this project has been conducted in a measured and careful manner over the span of many, many years. Whether you're talking about the original Sphere expansion, the master planning effort, or the environmental review, we've tried to work collaboratively with the landowners to make this a project that Riverbank and the greater Stanislaus County can be proud of. I'd also like to emphasize that the City Council takes its responsibility to provide opportunities for a variety of housing types very seriously. It has been discussed certainly recently at a statewide level. There's a housing crisis that has been in the news, and the Riverbank Council takes its responsibility to provide opportunities for development in a very important and specific way. The council has consistently made conscious policy decisions to be sure that fees and costs related to development are reasonable so that people on a diverse range of incomes will have the opportunity to find housing in Riverbank. We're also very excited to build on the success of the Crossroads Shopping Center and look forward to the commercial component of Crossroads West developing complementary commercial to what already exists in our centers. We've very much appreciated the opportunity to work with Sarah and her staff and you as well, and so we appreciate your consideration of approval this evening. Thank you very much. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Looking at your water, it says you have 9 wells right now. You have 1 that's offline. Is that what I'm seeing correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. So recently we turned a positive test for TCP 123, just barely above the MCL. So we were forced to take that offline, even though we blend all of our wells. And obviously, it's not a health concern for our residents. But this project builds in new, very large wells and storage tanks to serve the area.
Okay. Any other questions?
I noticed you have an unusually large sports park. Is that your intention to have one that large?
Yes. Actually, Supervisor DiMartini, you may recall years ago the county actually kicked in some PFF fees to help with that because it truly is a regional facility and it's at capacity. It's essentially rented, especially for soccer, every single weekend, certainly during the months when people are playing. And so we see a lot more recreational opportunities that we'll be able to build on there.
Yeah, if that part of it's in already, you're just expanding it.
Yep.
Unusually large sports park. So, Be nice for your residents.
A lot of mowing.
Don't that, yeah, I was gonna say, hope you take into account for the maintenance that thing's gonna cost.
Yeah. It's all built into our CFD to make sure it's taken care of, yeah. Thank you very much.
Nothing
All right,
else.
thank you.
Chairman Van Winkle, members of the commission, my name is Dave Romano. I'm here this evening on behalf of the landowners who have processed this application through to this point. I just want to let the commission know that about 30 years ago, my partner brought a sphere of influence request to LAFCO over at the old building and asked for a pretty expansive sphere. At that time, LAFCO told the city of Riverbank that LAFCO believed that only going to Oakdale Road was appropriate, that the Crossroads project should be developed first, should be developed completely, and at that time, Riverbank should consider coming back and asking for more land. 22 years ago, I stood at the podium at 1100 8th Street and I asked that the Crossroads be annexed, and the commission annexed it. The city of Riverbank has worked diligently and thoroughly and developed that project out over 22 years. They've really focused their energy and attention there. And then ultimately they decided through a general plan process that the next growth area would be between Oakdale and Coffee Road. They came to this commission, asked that it be moved into their sphere of influence. Again, their commissions granted it. And so this project is consistent with all the commission's policies. I want to thank my landowners for being diligent for funding this process. I want to thank the city staff for working with us. It's complicated. It takes a long time to get through here. Every step of the way, they've listened to what they've heard. They've been responsive to issues raised both outside and here at LAFCO. We think this project is ready to move forward. So on behalf of my landowners, we just want to thank your staff, the city staff, for helping us get to this point, and let the commission know that we're here if you have any questions from us. Thank you
Doesn't
very
quite
much.
seem like it's been 22 years since you started that Crossroads project. Time flies.
It actually started in '89, annexed in '97, and yeah, it took 22 years, and it's been through 2 development cycles. That's kind of the difficulty, but it's been there that long. And we really have a number of the same members who were part of that original success that are a part of this as well. So we're very optimistic and thankful for that.
All right.
Thank
Could
you.
you tell us why the Crawford Road has been moved to the north?
Yes, so when the original Crossroads development was done, the Crawford community, and Sarah, maybe there's a better map to kind of show, or Javier, to show that area. On Crawford Road near Coffee, there are a number of ranchettes. And when the original Crossroads was annexed, that community asked for some type of a traffic control measure in the middle of Oakdale Road at Crawford so that people would not use Crawford Road as a cut across. That was put in. It's kind of a pork chop and it's in the road. Then when the city did their new general plan, the Crawford neighbors also brought input to that process, and the new city's general plan showed Crawford being realigned. And so we honored that desire to move Crawford Road north of those existing ranchettes in a way that could serve not only this development but future development without really changing the lifestyle and the traffic that's on Crawford Road. And so existing Crawford Road will still connect between Oakdale and Coffee, but it will be routed around those residences, and then existing Crawford will either become a cul-de-sac or maybe not as directive as an alignment through. That was kind of the idea behind it.
I see. And what about the North County corridor that's going to be going through that area somewhere?
Right, so the North County corridor will be coming from the west, about where you see the word road in Clarabelle Road. It will be just slightly north of the word Clarabelle Road. It will cut right down south at kind of the corner of this property in Clarabelle Road, and then it will go about a quarter mile south of Clarabelle, and it will cut across. So it will nip or may nip a little bit of that corner right at what would be the very southwest corner. And so just as we get to the design process, we'll just be communicating and dealing with it then.
Is it, the North County corridor, of course, hasn't been built yet,
Right.
so it's not
And
on our maps.
And phase 1 is going to start at Oakdale Road and then continue to the east with respect to the first phase of development.
So it would be in the, let's see, the northwest corner, down at the bottom there, I guess it's south.
The very southwest corner,
corner.
right through there, possibly a
So is that a
small piece.
canal that goes through there?
That's MID lateral number 6. Yeah.
So you'll jog it right before the canal kind of
We
take
won't,
it.
yeah,
take it
that's
south.
its actual
Yeah.
alignment. What it does is it misses that mobile home park that you see south of the word Clarabelle, and then it slides right between there. It has to get a quarter mile south of existing Clarabelle and beneath the Hetch Hetchy power lines, and then it will run kind of south of there, and then it will connect back up somewhere near like Rainbow Fields, and then it will continue across country.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Terry?
those haven't been finalized yet, it's still, yeah, we're not there yet, guys.
And we're communicating with your staff about it, make
Yeah.
sure, yes.
Real quick, Dave, I don't know if you're the one or somebody else, just to talk a little bit to the letter from the Consolidated Fire, just kind of, anyway, address that. Or
So,
I don't know, maybe you or the city.
There are some here in the city. I'll say kind of briefly my comment, and then if they feel the need to add to that, certainly they can. This property's in Consolidated Fire District. We're not asking for a detachment. Usually when we do, we're talking about loss of tax revenue and how we're making sure that the districts stay whole. They have an adopted fee that they collect. The district feels that that fee is insufficient. They're in the process of preparing a study that will look at a new fee. That new fee will go to the city of Riverbank, city of Waterford, Stanislaus County to be adopted and imposed on new development. We have offered a little bit of an enhancement to that fee to the district. One of the challenges is you not only have to build a station, but you have to staff a station. And it's really the new growth and not only the fire suppression fee that each unit will pay of about $278 a unit that is for staffing, the property tax revenue. So we believe that with their current fee, and more so with an enhanced fee, they're going to be able to generate revenue, generate an ongoing revenue stream. If they can just build that station, a majority of the way through this project, and then they'll be able to staff it almost simultaneously with construction. Most of this area does fall within what would be the 6-minute response range that the city's general plan standard, based upon the maps too that we've been given. So those conversations have been occurring for a number of months, will continue to occur. I know the city of Riverbank wants good fire service. We want good fire service like we want good schools and good parks. And so I'm confident that there's a resolution there, but we are in the district and we're not asking to modify that.
Perfect, that's good. Just wanted to make sure it was pointed out that a lot of time and effort's been put into the numbers as far as what works and doesn't work with as far as these fees, and you guys are working hard to work through that, so,
You bet.
very good.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. Anybody else that would like to come and speak on this item before we bring it back? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We'll bring it back for questions.
Just that staff, there's no requirement that LAFCO would have that requires this fee to be finalized before annexation, is it?
No.
So I guess it looks like at some point they'll have to come to some resolution, but it doesn't have to be tonight.
Any other questions?
No? Okay.
Comments? Motion?
Okay, motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries 3-0. Okay. We have no other business, so we'll move down to commissioner comments.
I have nothing tonight.
Nothing from me.
Nothing for me either, so take it to executive officer's report.
Just wanted to note that last week we co-hosted a presentation for the special districts along with the California Special Districts Association. We had about 30 or so attendees from special districts all over the county. It was a free event for them, a little free educational opportunity, and we're looking into potentially making that an annual thing, maybe switch up the topic a little bit. But it was a good turnout, a little bit more than we expected, and they got a chance to interact with each other and say hi to us as well. As for upcoming items, we have 2 annexation applications that are incomplete and pending various items. Therefore, staff would recommend cancellation of our July 24th meeting, making our next meeting August 28th. And that's all.
You want to cancel the July meeting?
Yeah.
So you said you had good attendance at the special district meeting. Like, what's good attendance like?
It was a little over 30 people, and to me, that's pretty good because we advertised it running from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night.
Okay.
And we ended up getting out early, but, you know, people might have been scared off that we were having a 3-hour presentation.
That's great.
Okay, is that it then for you,
Yeah.
sir?
Well,
Okay.
where is the Cal LAFCO meeting this year?
It's
I've
in
forgotten.
Sacramento.
Oh, Sacramento, it's
Yeah.
close then.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Anything else? Okay, meeting adjourned.